this is more for kanji nerds like myself. I'm a kanji nerd, so I like to cover this stuff, and I found it very helpful. Chinese learners, I think, spend a little bit more time on this because some of the old versions are actually still used in advertising and stuff like that. So I think like Chinese students spend a little bit more time on this than maybe native Japanese students do. But I still find them very helpful and interesting, so we like to cover them a little bit. The first one and the oldest type of character, Chinese character, is the oracle bone script. And let's have Yuki read the name of that in Japanese.
甲骨文字.
甲骨文字, and that is literally bone script or bone characters. The bone characters were used around the late Shang dynasty, which was around 1200 to 1046 BCE, so over 3,000 years ago. And these characters, they were carved into ox bones and turtle shells, and they were used in a type of fire divination. So only like shamans and people like that actually ever wrote these. And then they used these for like rituals. And they're very pictographic. And they look something like this. This is an example of the character for horse. And this is the one for cow. So this is cow, yes. It's the image for cow. So this is like its face. And these are its horns, I imagine. The horse is very obvious. Like nobody's going to mess up what horse is. Anyway, so that's an oracle bone script. You can tell they're kind of like angular and stuff because they were literally just carving them into bones. The next one, it starts getting a little more interesting, is the bronze script. Yuki can read the name of that for us.
はい。金文?
Kinbun is correct, yes. This was starting to pop up around the late Shang dynasty and the Zhou dynasty, which was around 1100 BC to 221 BCE. So this is a little bit more recent, but still over 2,000 years ago. 3,000 to 2,000 years ago. So these were cast or carved into different bronze objects. Lots of different things. Swords. Yuki looks completely lost, but that's fine. Carved into various different things, or cast, which means that there was a clay mold, and they wrote the characters in the clay mold, and then they put the bronze into that. That means that they were able to make like more rounded characters, things like this. You look back at the oracle bones, they're a little bit jagged. Not a lot of them look jagged. The horse one obviously doesn't look jagged, but a lot of them are quite jagged. But bronze ones tend to get a little bit more elaborate and rounded. By the way, this is horse and very obviously now a cow. The next type, we're getting a little bit closer to more modern styles. We've got the big seal script. And that would be
大天.
That is correct. And this was during the Western and Eastern Zhou dynasties and into the Spring and Autumn Warring States periods, which were still approximately 3,000 years ago in 1046 to 221 BCE. So there was no standardization for these. They were all different all over China. Every little area of China had their own versions of these, but they were used for things like seals, like stamps and things like that. And they were found on things like bronze and stone all over the place. But you can see that these are starting to look a little bit more like the modern versions. This is a horse and this is a cow. But because these weren't standardized, there was actually probably like 60 different versions of each of these. These are just some of the examples. So they're a little less standardized. And that brings us to the most standardized version, which was the small seal script. This is the one that a lot of Japanese people will probably recognize, and that is...
はい。小天.
Shoten. Now, these were standardized by an emperor during the Qin dynasty. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but anyway, they were standardized in 221 BCE, so just over 2,200 years ago. And they were used for centuries after that. They were used in official writing. They were a unified writing system mandated by the emperor. They're much less pictographic because they took a blend of all of the ones from all over China and made them into one that most people could recognize. They're starting to be more symmetrical, even thin, like loop-like or rounded strokes. But even then, they're still too slow for daily writing, which eventually led to the clerical script that you're most used to today. Now, here's a version of horse and cow that we've got. And you can see they're a little bit more, not horse or cow-like. Now, have you seen these before, Yuki?
小天文字はここまで来るとその書道のクラスで教科書に書いてある。
Interesting. Okay. So she said when you get to this point, you actually see these versions in the class textbook they use for calligraphy. So all kids take calligraphy in Japanese school. So they get to see these in those. Now, I've also been looking at some elementary school textbooks, and even first-year students are shown a few of these when they're learning kanji for the first time, for some of the simpler kanji, like I, or like not all of them, but some of them. And they learn a little bit about these in their kokugo or Japanese classes. Another place you see these a lot is on Japanese hanko, on stamps.
そうですね。
These are one of the most common versions of kanji used for the stamps that people use as signatures. They're less common nowadays. Everyone has one, a hanko, right? You have to have one for getting a bank account. So everyone has a hanko, but signatures are starting to be more accepted here in Japan. But still, for many different official documents, you need a hanko or a stamp. And these are the most common type of font used for those. So these are the most important one to keep an eye out for, right? Okay, finally, we have one more sort of on the side one that we sometimes show in these lessons, and that's ancient script or...
これ古文って読むの？
そうです、古文. They predate the Qin dynasty, and they're usually like an alternate version that were discovered after standardization that are used to sort of give an idea or bridge the gap between the Bronze Age or the bronze versions and the seal script. So these are often in Japanese kanji dictionaries, and they're given as an alternate version. Now here's a horse, an alien horse, obviously, with a single eye. And this is actually, there was no version we could find of this for cow, so this is the character for winter, a UFO, bringing winter to mankind. Yeah. So anyway, now that you have a basic idea of the history of Japanese kanji and their historical forms, let's go ahead and look at the history of inside. I'm going to jump, well, no, I'll stay this way. So here's the oracle bone version. This was used in, it was written on bone. This one was on bronze. This is a little person literally inside a house. This is like a pretty obvious one. This one, of course, is even more obvious. This is the big seal version, and it's just a person inside a house. This one, the small seal version, looks pretty much the same as the new one. So there's not much going on there. Sounds pretty easy.